All right, welcome back, students. In this lesson, we're going to learn about values such as numbers and operators and how we combine values and operators to make expressions and how we use variables in expressions as a substitute for certain values. Okay, so we're in lesson 1.2. It looks something like this. First thing you're going to do is want to open up idle. This is the Python shell is called, and in order to find it, you just go to your start menu, find all programs, find the Python 3.3 folder in your all programs area. Make sure you don't open an older version of Python. We're using 3.3. Select the idle link here and it'll open up the Python shell is what it's called. Python shell looks like this. You'll see these three greater than or less than symbols here, or excuse me, greater than symbols, and that is called the prompt. The prompt means that the Python shell is waiting for you to put in input or type in something. And so if I refer to the prompt, this is what I'm talking about. One of the things I want to encourage you to do throughout this course is to practice actually writing out the code a lot. Don't just read about the code or just watch the videos, but everything I show you, I need you to actually open up Python and write the code and test it yourself. It's the only way you learn how to program. As you can see here in the instructions for this lesson, I have told you that all of the code that I give you in the lesson has all been highlighted in yellow. So if you come down here a ways, you'll see that I want you to type in everything you see that's been highlighted in yellow. Okay. And this will really help you, again, to understand what we're doing in this course is if you actually type it in yourself and practice it. All right, one of the first things you'll discover in using the Python shell is that it acts just like a calculator. You can put in math problems like 2 plus 2, and you'll see that the Python shell will give you a return value. So 3 minus 5 is -2. We can go 5 and then use the asterisk and another number. We'll see 5 times 6 is 30. You can use a negative symbol for subtraction, and we can use a forward slash is what that's called to do division. And so we see those four basic math operators: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. You need to get used to using that and doing simple math in the Python shell. As we see here, we have a series of what are called expressions. Expressions are simply the combination of values, such as the value 10 and the value 3, combined with an operator, such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, or division. And so an expression is the combination of values and operators. An important thing, very important thing to remember is that expressions always evaluate to a single value. So when Python is given an expression such as 5 times 6, it will evaluate that down to a single value, as we see here. Okay, let's put in another little more complex problem. Let's go ahead and put in 5 plus 10. Let's multiply that by 4, and then let's subtract 15 from that. And we'll see what we get. We actually get 30 there. Now this is a more complex problem. It's still an expression. It's made up of values that are combined with operators. And we see there are 4 values and 3 operators. It's important that you understand the order of operations. In this case, normally it goes from left to right, but it also starts with multiplication and division. So it will do the 10 times 4 first. That would give us 40. So it evaluates it down. So now you have 3 values and 2 operators. So then once it does the multiplication, it'll go back to the left, and it'll start with this addition. So 5 plus the 40 that is here gives you 45, and then it'll take the 45 and evaluate it down to a single number. 45 minus 15 is 30. So that's how we end up with 30. I'd like you to go ahead and experiment with your Python shell with a number of different expressions using values and operators and see what you get. Okay, so far we've only been using integers, which are whole numbers, as we see here, but you can also use decimal numbers. These in Python are called floating point numbers. Let's go ahead and try another floating point expression, 4.6. Oh, how about multiplied by 3.2? And we'll see that comes out to a floating point number, 14.719. Goes on forever. And a floating point is simply a number that has a decimal point in it. Integers and floating point are different types of numbers in Python, and you need to make sure you know the difference between the. Okay, the last thing I want to go over in this lesson is the use of variables. If you've taken algebra, you know a variable is simply a letter or a series of letters and numbers that can be used to hold a value. Okay, it substitutes for that value. For example, we can have a variable called num1, and we can give that variable a value. Say num1 is equal to 10. Okay. Now if I just type out num1, it's going to tell me what that number or that variable is holding. It's holding the number 10. And so I can then give another variable, how about num2, and give it a value using the equals symbol. It's also called the assignment operator. Num2 is given the value of 15. So if I type out num2 and hit enter, it'll tell me or evaluate that expression. Here's an important note to remember. A single variable or number can actually is actually an expression. And if you just type in the number 15 and hit enter, it evaluates that expression, that single value, and returns the value that you see there. Okay, so I've got two variables now, num1, num2, and I can actually do math with these variables. I can say num1 plus num2, and what do you think I'm going to get when I do that? Hit enter, and I'm going to get 25, because that's simply the same as saying 10 plus 15, which is 25. But instead, I've substituted the use of variables in place of the actual values. And I can do any kind of math with that. I can say num2 minus num1, and I'm going to get 5. I could say num1 times num2, and you can see what I get there. 150. Now I can actually change the value. What I could do is say num1 is now equal to num1 plus num2. So I'm going to take num1, we know has the value right now of 10. But I'm going to take that and I'm going to add 10, num1 plus num2, which is 10 plus 15, and I'm going to get the value of 25, and I'm going to store that back in to the variable called num1. And so now if I type out, we see I didn't get any return there. I just went ahead and stored the value back in this variable. Watch what happens when I type out num1 now. Instead of seeing the value of 10, I now see the value 25, because I've replaced the value of 10 in this variable and I've given it a new value of 25. And so now if I say num1, how about let's just even make a new variable, num3. Num3 is equal to num1, which now has the value of 25, plus num2, which still has the value of 15. I should get a new value in num3. Aha, num3 is now equal to 40. Okay, does that make sense? So now I can use num3 as a variable as well. How about num3 minus num1, and that gives me 15. Okay, so I want you to play around again now with expressions, which is the combination of values and operators. An expression always evaluates down to a single value. You can use variables or you can use actual values like numbers in your expressions. Variables just hold that value temporarily in memory so that you can use it inside an expression like we've done here. So I want you to experiment creating some different variables here in the Python shell.